Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio. And now, here is Walter Bingham.
Hello and welcome to this very special program for July 30th, 2021, the 21st of Av, 5781. I am Walter Bingham. Unusually, the whole of today's hour-long plus show is devoted to just one subject. Israel's Charedi, that ultra-Orthodox community, is growing faster than any other sector, and their influence in Israeli politics is considerable. At the same time, their traditional efforts to protect Charedi youth from the pervasive influences of the secular world has become more and more difficult. The convenience of using mobile telephones can no longer be averted, and preventing internet access by only allowing specially adapted so-called kosher phones can easily be circumvented by young teenagers with access to some money. There is a surplus of good second-hand phones available at very cheap cost. It is also impossible to avoid sexually implicit advertising posters assaulting everyone on every street corner, all to the detriment of sheltering the ultra-Orthodox lifestyle. And this program brings you the unavoidable consequences. When one hears the word Charedi, that's Jewish ultra-Orthodox, one thinks immediately of black-dressed, bearded men or somberly clothed women with their hair covered, pushing a baby chair with several children in tow, each sprouting side locks of varying length. That's a sight common in Stamford Hill in London, Williamsburg, New York, or several districts in Jerusalem, among other places in the world. The ultra-Orthodox lifestyle necessitates ghetto-like communities for several reasons. The very strict observance of Torah law requires services that need to be within proximity of their homes. Apart from synagogues that conduct the services according to the ritual prescribed by their spiritual leader or rebbe, there is the necessity of the ritual bathhouse, the mikveh, to enable a halachic requirement mainly for women, though men also regularly use one. Before dishes and utensils can be used in the kosher kitchen, they must acquire an additional measure of holiness. Hear how after the break.
How did a nice Jewish girl from Delaware end up living in Israel? Shalom!
I'm Natalie Sapinski. Join me on my show, Returning Home. Meet different people who have moved to Israel. Hear their personal stories, their highs, their lows, and everything in between. Each week, we talk to experts on immigration and the process of moving to Israel. Listen to Returning Home every Thursday, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
And now, here is Walter Bingham.
Before dishes and utensils can be used in the kosher kitchen, they must acquire an additional measure of holiness, which is conferred through the ritual immersion in a spiritually constructed ritual pool connected to a source of pure rainwater that also needs to be nearby. There is also the need for stores that provide food with a kosher certification authorized by their spiritual leader. That ensures their production to be suitably supervised. Very importantly, men and women's clothing stores must be near that offer suitable attire, because the wearing of linen and wool in the same garment is a Torah prohibition. It's mainly found in high-end men's suits jackets. So to lead the ultra-Orthodox lifestyle within an environment that is exposed to influence from the outside world, such as, for instance, internet and publicly displayed advertisements, need strict discipline to resist. Firm control is exercised by education from a very early age and an extremely sheltered milieu. However, it is in the nature of youth to rebel against the establishment, both political and social. In Charedi circles, this tendency is prevented from developing by the exercise of a strict religious routine that leaves little time or opportunity to think of matters non-spiritual. It's not surprising, therefore, that a not inconsiderable number of Charedi young people, particularly those with an inquiring mind, begin to ask questions about the value of living a life that restricts what they consider to be the opportunities that the wider world offers. Ever more have left their family homes to discard the restrictions that Charedi life imposes. My first guest today is Debbie Perla, who is on the staff of Out for Change, one of the organizations that help former Charedi youth to integrate into secular society. Good to see you. I take it that you yourself left the Charedi world.
Actually, I am not one of the people who have left the Charedi world, although the organization puts a big focus on people who have left the ultra-Orthodox community helping other people. Yotzim helping Yotzim.
Those who dropped out.
I myself am not from an ultra-Orthodox background, although I'm from a somewhat observant home.
So when and by whom was Out for Change founded?
Out for Change was founded in 2013 by people who had themselves left the ultra-Orthodox community and wanted to provide services and help and support to other people who would be leaving the ultra-Orthodox community. Most of them hadn't had that kind of help. They wanted to be sure that other people in the future wouldn't face those same challenges.
How many people do you have on your books, and what is the percentage of male and female?
That's a great question. The way we work at Out for Change, we have kind of an open policy. So people can come, we run centers in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem, and people are welcome to come in and meet other people, take part in courses, get advice, and we ask them only to fill out a form or to register with us when they actually participate in something. Our goal is to make people feel welcome and that they can come in at any time. So we get about 100 new people registering for different kinds of programs every month. So that means this year we expect about 1,200, and we already have, I think, about 2,000 people registered with the organization.
That's in both cities.
In both cities, and to some extent around the country, because with Corona, we were able to actually expand a lot of our work through Zoom, and we got more people coming from outside of the central areas of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and the surrounding. And in terms of your question of how many male and how many female, we tend to have more men coming through, but the actual, in terms of research that's been done, we know that men and women are leaving the ultra-Orthodox community in the same numbers, which came as a little bit of a surprise, but we know that this to be true. About 49% are women and 51% are men, about equal.
Those young people had previously no contact with the outside world, so how do they find you?
Some people find us, a lot of people, I would say, find us through the internet. We have a website that has a lot of different practical information about the Army, university, what their rights are, and it also obviously gives information about all of our courses and programs and how to reach one of our guidance counselors, our social workers who offer support.
So at that point, they already have access to the internet, because before that they didn't.
I wouldn't say that they have access to the internet. I don't think it's coming from within their homes, but a lot of people who are looking for answers or are looking for a way out find other ways of finding the internet. My understanding is that there are people who have phones maybe that they've hidden in their homes, or they go out and they find cafes where they can interact with people from different places and find this kind of information.
So now to the very important question, what exactly does Out for Change do? And how do you handle the problems of people who, I presume, are totally disoriented and feel lost?
We help in two different areas. So what we call sort of the micro level, working with individuals, we provide a number of different programs. The first step is often coming through the internet, reaching out and asking for help. And then we kind of determine, well, who does this person need to go to? So sometimes a person says, I need help with my English, and we can direct them. We have a program that we match people up with individual tutors.
That's because at home they don't learn any English, just Hebrew and in many cases Yiddish.
Right. So most of the people that are coming from us, because their education was an ultra-Orthodox education, for many of them, secular studies stopped at, say, the third grade. So most people who are coming to us have almost no English. They have very basic math skills. The women tend to have a higher education because they're usually training to go out and get professions. So they may have a high school diploma.
You mean single women in Charedi circles are trained to go out and have professions?
They are. A lot of women are. The men tend to be trained to continue with their yeshiva studies, to go learn in a kollel. And the women have to support the families. So many of them are getting jobs because they need to be earning extra income to support the family. So for them, it might be a teaching degree, it might be something, it won't necessarily be on a high professional level, but it'll be enough for them to get a job. So they need the high school diploma.
But now you're talking about married men and women. It was always my view that Charedi families train young girls to be good wives and good mothers to many children and get them married very quick.
I think that's true. I don't know the exact numbers, but I think that there's still a need in many of these communities for the women to work. And a lot of them do work. And there are even programs for integrating Charedi women into workplaces.
These are the married
women.
I'm talking about the youngsters who are dropping out.
We only help people who have already reached the age of 18. We don't work with minors at all, and our agenda is not to convince anybody to leave the Charedi community. We work solely with people who are 18 and can make that decision on their own. And we help them once they've either made the decision that they want to leave the society or they're thinking about it and they want advice about how to do it. But again, only once they're no longer minors. We deal with people who have graduated high school or higher yeshiva.
That's Jewish Studies Institute for Young Men.
And in a lot of cases, we deal with people who are well past that, people who are in their 20s and have come to the decision a little bit later.
During your initial interviews and your initial conversations with people who come to you, what reason do they give for their decision, and is there a difference between men and women?
There's actually research done on this. We actually know 60% of the people who are choosing to leave remain religious in some way. They don't become totally secular. I would say they choose along the entire spectrum of religious observance. People leave for four primary reasons. One, they've had some kind of trauma, often dealing with sexual identity. They've discovered that they're gay and that they can't live within that community. Some people simply want independence. They want to be able to think independently and not have it dictated to them how they're going to live their lives. For some people, there is a religious element. There's an element of God and a lack of faith or belief. And this is more of the majority, is simply a decision that they've had a crisis of faith within the community in terms of believing in the system itself and living a Charedi lifestyle. And in terms of men and women, I don't know that there's a difference between. I think that the reasons are similar between them. There may be research out there. I don't know that there's a distinction between men and women of why they're leaving.
Do you have a social program where people can meet among themselves and perhaps exchange their experiences and give each other tips?
That's a big part of what we're trying to do. In addition to kind of helping them with educational programming and just kind of acculturating to normative Israeli society, a big part of what we're trying to do is to help them build their own community. For many of these people, it's much more natural for them to sit with other people. One of the most interesting things for me is to watch some of the people who work at Out for Change sitting and speaking to each other in Yiddish, because that's their native tongue. We have an open center. We have one in Tel Aviv and one in Jerusalem. People can come and work there or hang out with friends there. We offer all kinds of cultural programming, anything from learning about modern Israeli music to Carlebach nights where they can sit and sing old songs that they're familiar with, to Shabbat dinners that are kind of different than what they're familiar with, to yoga and learning how to use LinkedIn. So it's a whole variety of offerings that we give.
And that all happens at that center?
Right, in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem.
What kind of courses do you have?
A lot of the courses are basic core courses, right? Most people are coming out, they have no math or very little math and very little English. So we do a lot of focus on helping them overcome those barriers, those gaps. We also work on other areas, so history, art history, music, science. We cover a lot of that. And we also do practical stuff, life skills workshops. So learning how to use LinkedIn, how to write a resume, how to build a website if I want to do independent work. How do I interview? How do I dress for an interview? What are the things I need to say?
Keep it here, there is much more to come, including interviews with young people who left the Charedi lifestyle and why.
Shalom, everybody. Making a difference often takes just one moment and one person at a time. I am Orly Benny Davis, your show host on Israel News Talk Radios from Jerusalem with Love. You'll be hearing people talking about politics, religion, social issues, and making a better tomorrow. Join me, Orly Benny Davis, for God and Country. From Jerusalem with Love.
Wednesdays on Israel News Talk Radio.
And now, here is Walter Bingham.
Welcome back. I'm in conversation with Debbie Perla, administrator for Out for Change, an organization that helps young people who leave the ultra-Orthodox lifestyle. So you help them getting jobs as well? Do you have a list of jobs, or do you get applicants coming to you who want people to work for them?
We get a little bit of that. Sometimes people will turn to us. More often we refer people because there are a lot of very good organizations and government bodies that work on this issue. So we kind of help people figure out what they're looking for and then refer them on for job placement.
For what period of time do your client, for want of a better word, stay in contact with you? Or for how long do you follow up their progress?
People come to us at all different ages. So we sometimes get people who have left when they're 18, and sometimes we have people coming to us when they've been out of the ultra-Orthodox community for 20 years. We welcome everybody based on what their particular needs are.
That would be a sad state of affairs if in 20 years they've not found their feet here.
Well, it could be that they found their feet, but maybe they're just missing a piece. They would like to meet other people who have left the community. One of our board members left a long time ago, and he said that for many, many years, he never even met anybody else like him. So for some people, it's just an issue of comfort. And we try to keep up. We keep up certainly for as long as they're taking part in our programs and coming to our centers.
For how long do you follow up?
Well, it really depends on what they're coming for. So if someone comes in and they just need an English course, we're happy to provide that for them. We get feedback, we do surveys and evaluations to understand whether they succeeded, whether it was taking a psychometric exam or finishing their high school exams, getting to university. We want to know that they've been able to succeed. And we're building a better CRM system that we can do much more longer-term follow-up and see how successfully all of these people are integrating and adjusting.
Can you give me an example of someone, how they have succeeded?
We have a young man who was able to get into a university, started with almost no English, and now he's actually come back and he does tutoring in math for other people who have left the ultra-Orthodox. And that's just one example, but we have people, who've gone on to law school. We have a program that's called Out to Learn, where we provide tutors for people. We have numerous people who have come in with almost, let's say, no English. They've finished their tutoring, they've taken exams, they've gotten into university. People have then gotten help through our social workers at the centers, and they were able to get a fellowship or a scholarship to university who haven't finished university yet.
So you're on the staff. What exactly do you do?
My job is working on development and fundraising. So that includes working with donors and potential donors, grant writing, proposals, reports. We also have a really amazing group of volunteers who help in that area as well.
Is this organization operated like a membership with a fee?
We don't require membership. It's one of the things I think that makes us kind of unique is that we don't require people to join. We want people to feel comfortable coming in, asking for the things that they need without making a commitment to join the organization. If they sign up for a course or a workshop or they want to get individual counseling, they have to fill out a form, but just that one time. And it's really so we can know, are we meeting everybody's needs who's coming to us?
You're the right person to ask, how is this organization funded?
So some of our funding comes from government support. We have support through the Ministry of Labor and Welfare and through the National Institute of Insurance, the Bituach Leumi, as well as through the Schusterman Foundation. We have a very nice partnership with them. And we also have a lot of support through individual donors, a lot of secular Israelis who understand what the issues are. I talked a little bit about the micro side of working with the individuals, but the organization was originally founded to work on what we sort of call the macro, right? We wanted to change policy, and we do a lot of advocacy and lobbying work. We work with Knesset committees and developing programs that can help on a national level, changing policy that will benefit people who have left the ultra-Orthodox community. And the primary areas we work in are with the Army, with the IDF, in higher education, and in the labor force. And our goal is really to ensure that those who have left the ultra-Orthodox community are recognized as a distinct group with separate kinds of needs and accommodations that need to be made. Because although they present as any other modern average Israeli, they're coming with a lot of gaps that they need to overcome.
As you describe yourself, you're really the kingpin in this organization.
I would say the executive director is that person. He's really the person who has the vision, who's creating the vision for it, for the organization, together with our board.
Thank you very much, Debbie, for coming to the studio, and I very much appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
So, to find out what moves such young people to take that life-changing step against the traditions of their families, I welcome to the studio Eli, who is 28, and Ricky, aged 22, to answer some searching questions about the process that moved them into leading a secular life.
Hi there.
Hi there, I'm Ricky.
I'll start with you, Ricky. Would you describe the life you gave up?
I think there is something very comfortable and very confident that you're part of something that bigger than you, and you are part of society, and something that give you a really meaning every single day, every single time. You wake up in the morning and you know what to exactly to do, and you go to sleep and you read something before you sleep. It surrounded you all the times. All the time there is a question, what am I? What I supposed to do? And question about identity and question about meaning and religion and spiritual life. They give you exactly what you need. Okay, that you have the meaning and you have to belong to something. And when you decide to live it and to find your own meaning, it's a process that really difficult and not difficult. It's just to reset all your mindset. All your mindset become to something you need to find out what you want to do.
What about you, Eli?
I concur with what she says. I really think that living as a Charedi is a very easy choice. Every day you wake up to the same norm, to the same routine. It's pre-programmed into you, and it makes life much easier than setting out and in a secular lifestyle where you have to make every choice again and again. You're away from a community, you're away from your family, and you have to create your own surroundings instead of it being fed to you. So in that aspect, there's something very nice in having a Charedi lifestyle.
But you
Yes, yeah, out of a personal choice, yes.
Were you in a specific Charedi movement?
Yes, you would call it maybe the central type of in Charedi, which is the Litai or Litvish.
Of Lithuanian origin.
Yes, the mainstream Charedi population.
And what about you, Ricky?
I was a part of a community that's called Chabad. There is Hasidut, combination of Chokhmah, Bina, V'Da'at.
Chokhmah, Bina, V'Da'at are the three pillars on which Chabad is built: wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. So when did you begin to feel that you were, so to speak, a misfit in your family?
I think it's a long process, and you need to understand about yourself and about the society.
Did it take you a long time to make that decision?
Always people ask me, so when you decide you not believe in all stuff anymore, so you go out and you gave up about all. But I always answer that it's not to be unorthodox. I think it's a long process, and I think it began in the first doubt you have about what you grown up. So when you are a child, they raise you about it's axioma.
Charedi families are often second or even third generation Holocaust survivors.
Okay.
So did you ever discuss your pain with your family, or did you feel that you did not want to compete with their suffering, having Holocaust connections?
When Haredim talk about the Holocaust, there is one answer that you heard all the time. This is what the God want, and this is what we deserve, or what the God think we deserve, and we're not asking about that, and it's not our duty to research and to ask why. It's not something to discuss.
A couple of years ago, I was at home and I asked the same question about the Holocaust. Basic question, why do bad things happen to good people? In the Charedi lifestyle, there's always one answer. It's always God wanted it so, and we humbly accept it. It can't be. I don't see any reasoning in it, and as a child I always questioned that.
So you did talk to your family about it, even though perhaps your family had some Holocaust connections.
Yeah.
You were not concerned that you might hurt them by talking about your own pain.
No, I think that the truth comes first, especially regarding the Holocaust. It's important to fact-find and speak the truth rather than just relate it to something like it is because of God, God wanted it so.
What language did you speak at home?
Mix of Yiddish, Dutch and English, I guess.
I see you have Dutch connections. You did speak English?
Yes.
What about you, Ricky?
Mostly Hebrew, I guess, but also understand Russian, Yiddish.
How many older or younger siblings do you have?
7.
Are any of your siblings considering to follow you?
No, I'm the only one that's not Orthodox anymore.
You also have a large family.
We are 8 siblings, including me. My youngest sibling, he is 17 years old, and I think he finds me as a role model. I don't want him to. I want him to find his own way. He is in a rebellious stage and he wants to do what he wants to do. Yeah, I think he wants to follow in my footsteps. I'd rather he find himself rather than going off my life.
In Charedi life, what about control of dress, colors, etc.? Was that very strict in your home? That's an important facet of ultra-Orthodox life. Hear what they have to say about after the break.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
This is Shai Bentako, and each week I'll be webcasting to you from Judea, origin of the word Jew, a people besieged and beleaguered in every generation. Nazi Germany's but a memory, but in its place the world invented the phantom Palestinians as this generation's internationally authorized Jew killers. Tune in for a different slant on life in Israel, Phantom Nation, every Monday.
Hi, I'm Rabbi David Aaron. The soul basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in our education. Join me for Soul Talk on Israel's News Talk Radio and discover the secrets to love, spiritual growth, and personal power.
In Charedi life, what about control of dress, colors, etc.? Was that very strict in your home?
Yes, especially as a kid going to school. We had our own school uniform, but it was exactly the same as the yeshiva uniform and later on the kollel uniform. It's all the same, black and white. You wear what your community allows you to. As a Charedi teenager, it didn't really disturb me, but it's part of a bigger issue I have, which is the stereotypical ways the Charedi has to do what he has to do. He has to wear a yarmulke. That's a head covering with a certain engrave on it, and he has to wear a shirt and a trousers a certain way, a belt a certain way, shoes. And if he deviates from it even slightly, he's considered something else. He's straight away not part of the mainstream community, and that's very stereotypical and unjust in my eyes.
I understand, Ricky, that your family lives in Kfar Chabad, which is really a close community of people who follow the Chabad mode. What was it like about dress and colors in your family?
As a daughter and as a woman, I'm not requested to wear black and white, but you got the dedication that you had to cover yourself and not to be something that may be to someone to look at you and think about something to think about you. So you need to cover yourself. And every time that something is going on, Elul is coming. So everybody need to cover yourself more. This is your duty and this is what you need to do.
Eli?
In the ultra-Orthodox world, the month of Elul is of very high significance. This month requires us to be extra observant of the Torah laws and, in general, become closer to God.
You don't need to wear black and white, but are you restricted to any colors?
There is colors that you shouldn't be to wear. Something like red is not tznius, because you so cover yourself and hide in the corner. That's what you need to do.
In Charedi families, it's expected that particularly girls marry very young, preferably in their late teenage. I suppose so that the sexual drive doesn't lead them astray. Were you afraid of having to marry young and someone whom your parents chose?
No, because in my community there is no very young marriage. Most of my friends got married in 21 or 22, but there is a lot of conversation about it when you're very young. So when I was 15 and 16 years old, they already start talking about that your duty and your purpose is to be married to a Hasidic boy.
You almost answered my next question. What kind of environment was it for women? What was your perception of the expectations from you? What did your parents expect from you?
To be someone who followed the rules, not to do troubles. You need to be part of the society.
While we're on that subject, in your early teens, from conversations with your girlfriends and, of course, your own experience at home, do Haredi mothers explain what young girls can expect in due course?
I think the most explanation about to be a woman is about when you got married, you got the explanation about Nida.
That refers, among others, immersion in a ritual bath at certain times of the month.
When you're going to be married, and they told you about that in your first time of your life, men going to touch you and men going to be with you. It's a kind of shock because all the teenage and they tell you how much it's a sin to think about men and to touch a man and to create every interaction between men and women. And one day, in the first time of your life, they told you about what relationship with men is going to be, and it's become from the most sin, it become to your duty and the thing you're going to do 1 week or 1 month from now. And it's a shock and it's even traumatic.
The most taboo subject within the Charedi lifestyle is to do with sexual intercourse and marriage, and suddenly it's so taboo, the subject of talking to boys in any way. Overnight you get married and the change is so sudden. You sleep next to a man that you've always been told it's wrong, and now suddenly it has to be right.
What's it like for young men?
I personally left the Charedi lifestyle at a young age, at 14, so I didn't get to experience. And I've learned in a yeshiva, it's a place where people who are between 13 and 16 study. I was there for a year, but other than that, I didn't get to experience the proper teenagehood Charedi lifestyle. What I could say from my family is that being a boy is being restricted in a lot of different areas, not only with who you get to marry, but also how you want to live your life. you have a conceptual way of how you live your life even before you're born. That is very important for me to say, even though the Charedi lifestyle has its own disadvantages, it's full of life and full of good. I'm here criticizing the Charedi community, but at the same time I want to impress the fact that they've done a wonderful job having a community of giving so much love and belonging that in the secular world you don't have that. So it has its ups and downs, but I had to make my own personal choice. Every person has to make his own choice and not to be discouraged by criticism.
Ricky, at what age did you leave home? Did you consider that to be a chance in life or a risk? And did you experience fear of the unknown? Was it painful?
There is a lot of elements of pain or suffer or some difficulty in every single 17 years old girl that trying to find herself out of all that. I really have no idea about what is going on out of my society, and I think it was more necessary because when you realize that all that education for was just a way to belong to something and to believe in and to be apart from something is bigger than them, and I can create my personal life and to belong to something I want to belong to. And I realize that religion is just a way from people to belong to something, and I want to belong to something else. So maybe I need to choose what I want to belong to.
So would I be right in saying that you felt unprepared for the life that you embarked on? And if so, what concerned you most?
Most things I worried about the material things. Money, a home, it's not the thing at all. I'm working in a job that I want and I make my money, and it's not a material worry. But in the beginning, it looked like I will never belong to something because all the connection between people, how to be a part of a society, all the things in a context with what you know about.
You mean it's all new?
It was about not material things.
When you left, have you ever felt guilt?
Kind of, because when you take a pain from your family and parents, in my beginning, they told me a lot of times because I'm not part of their way. And I think they very worried about me because they don't know at all the whole lifestyle that's not what they know.
I'm quite sure that your parents worry about you, but did you feel guilty for having left your community?
I don't think I should be guilty because I'm not believe in this way. I think it's a wrong way to spend your life, so I don't think I should be guilty.
Eli, what about you?
I think that at first, when I left, I felt very guilty.
Because you were only 14.
Yeah, I was so in love with Judaism. At first I felt like maybe a piano is going to fall from heaven. I felt guilty at betraying God, not only my family. And I think it took me time, maybe maturation a bit, to understand, in my eyes at least, the bigger picture. So yes, at first I felt guilty. Also guilty to my family for causing them pain, but at the same time it was a bit of a complex situation. My parents, my community, they all left me behind because they didn't respect the choices I made for myself.
So there was a hiatus with your family?
Yeah, yes. Today, thank God, it's over.
You said earlier on that the Charedi lifestyle has some advantages. Do you miss those now?
I think so. Maybe the biggest one I always dream about is an idea called kumznitz. A kumznitz is like when you sit down in a circle on a bonfire and you start singing together with the guitar, and the sense of belonging that you get from that and other activities similar to that is very, very strong, even to the fact that in the secular world I don't think there's something so close to it. So yes, in that sense I guess I still miss some of the things, yes.
Do you miss anything from your life previously?
I think that once you separate between the traditional things, they could be a very good thing to you. There is a lot of things in my past that I miss them, but I think you can...
What, for instance, do you miss?
I think all the concept of Shabbat is something that there is a lot of good things in. There is a lot of concepts that I miss them because there is a lot of meaning in traditional stuff. I miss a lot of family stuff and holidays and traditional things that make you feel very belong to something big, but you can make it in an unorthodox lifestyle because it's traditional and it's culture and you don't need to believe in God to do all the things that Charedi lifestyle required to do.
Do you believe in God?
No, I think God is a concept of people to belong to something bigger than them and not to be worried about things that can be because God is make all the plans and God going to save them and God give you a meaning to all of the things that happen to you. I think the people create God for a reason. God make you feel that you belong to something bigger than you and God give you confidence.
So by what term would you describe people like yourself? You don't believe in God and you told me all the other things. Now, who are you? By what term would you describe yourself?
I'm trying to not belong to something, to define myself. I'm not part of the religion, so I'm really trying not to be a part of other religion. And when I say another religion, I mean all the opinion that extremely believe in yourself. So if I become to a very leftist man, I'm again in a religion. And if I become to very feminist woman, I become to another religion. So I'm really think that the people who left the Charedi lifestyle, they keep looking for a meaning to belong to something and they become some opinion to the new religion.
So you don't belong to anything?
Yeah, and I'm really trying to keep it because I think when you are ex-Orthodox, you're not noticed, but you can come another opinion to your new religion. So I'm very practical person and I'm believing relative moral.
You want to be a free spirit, but somehow people do belong to something.
Okay. Eventually you find yourself between a group of people because we live in a society. You cannot avoid belong to something in your life, but I think you need to notice that you're not a new religion from your new opinion.
Eli, do you believe in God?
Well, I've been deliberating that question for, 28 years now. I think a few different things. Obviously, God plays a big part in a religion, in society, and it has a good reason for doing so. It gives a sense of being, sense of purpose, sense of community even. Those things shouldn't be taken lightly, shouldn't be just driven away all of a sudden and just somebody coming up and saying, there is no God, forget morals, forget norms, we will do whatever we want. If you want a definition, a category, I guess, that would probably put me in an agnostic sense that I don't know if there's a God or there isn't a God. But the truth is, I live my life according to the rule that it doesn't really make a difference if there is a God or there is no God. We're intrinsically good, and we should follow our path in life, not because God said so, not because someone else said so, but because we truly believe in what we do. So in that aspect, I don't think I should live my life or even categorize myself using the fact if there is a God or there isn't a God. It doesn't really make a difference to me. I know what I want to live my life, even if there's no such a thing as a God.
Some Charedi dropouts told me that they deliberately did something outrageous, like buying a ham sandwich. Did you do anything like that?
Oh yes, 2 weeks ago on Shabbat I went to a restaurant with my flatmates here in Jerusalem, and you'd be surprised what you can find in Jerusalem, from anything from bacon to horse meat, I guess. But in this instance I was eating some good shrimps, and nothing to do with religion, but just, yes, it's tasty, I guess.
I think everyone that belong to Charedi lifestyle and decide to left, he have the day he going to buy a ham sandwich. It's not about a ham sandwich, it's to switch the light in a Shabbos. It's so meaningful when you decide to, so you do something from the point.
So you feel that you have totally left, totally discarded Jewish religious ritual, Or have you still some heart pangs that you left the ultra-Orthodox community?
I make the separation between some stuff that I want to keep to myself. So I can find myself in a Saturday night playing in a piano the songs that I used to be singing in Shabbat with my family, but I'm really make the separation between the traditional stuff that I want to keep and the thing that you're required to do, and if you're not doing that, you're going to hell, and all the concept of religion.
That's very interesting, that despite the fact that you totally broke with Jewish tradition, you don't believe in God, but I feel that you still somehow have a connection because you like to sit and sing the songs that you did with your family.
I think it's not surprising at all and that's the thing that you know since you are a little boy. And there is not a reason that you throw it all. It's something that I'm connected with it if I want and if I don't want. So I think it's okay to keep some traditions.
To keep Jewish traditional things.
It's not a Jewish tradition because I think the Charedi lifestyle, it's a society and it's a culture and it's something that really separates the Jewish religion. I think the Jewish religion is the base, but Charedi lifestyle make a focus on a thing that really not the word in the Torah. I think the Charedi lifestyle, it's a culture and it's a society before that ideology of the Jewish religion. So I think I feel connecting and I keep with me the traditional thing that belong to Charedi lifestyle. Because I'm really feel that's a society and a culture, and I'm keeping with me because that's what I know. But I'm not feel connecting with some religion stuff that you were required to do, because that's what in the Torah.
Despite the fact, Eli, that you said you enjoyed the shrimp, I have the impression that your view is not quite as extreme as Ricky's. Ricky denied God. You've not denied God. You may not follow him, but I have the impression that you...
I definitely think the Haredi lifestyle has misconstrued Judaism, I guess. Judaism used to be something much more beautiful, something much more inclusive, and the Haredi people took it and made it so exclusive. Anyone who's not Haredi is not Jewish in their eyes. So religious Zionistic people who live in Israel, who have a different lifestyle than the Haredi people, in the Haredi people's eyes, they are worse than the secular people, because the Haredim say they have an exclusive right to tell what is Judaism, and it's not true. There's so many different variants. There's always been so many different variants. I feel that I'm close to every Jew in the world, not because of religion, which I'd rather not say what it is, because I think to everyone it has its own meaning. What is Judaism for them? So for me, I look at the Jewish people around us and the culture, and I'm very connected to it, but by tribalism, by the fact that they are my tribe, and the culture is part of my tribe. So for Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot, which are the Jewish three main festivals, I would celebrate it with my family and it will be amazing. But not because God said so, but because this is how my tribe gets about and does community life.
I suppose, Ricky, you don't agree with that.
I'm agreeing in a different way. I think the only way to keep something primitive like religion in our times is to have a Haredi lifestyle, because if you want to keep your children in this behind these rules, you cannot give them the choice. Okay, there is a free world outside and you can go and be enjoy and to do whatever you want, but there is also the religion's way and you choose, because it's very understood that the child it's not want to be a religious boy. So when you want to keep this lifestyle, you need to close your children and you need to close your culture and to be something that not part of the mainstream, and it's a necessary.
Do you see your family from time to time?
Sometimes.
And do you spend time with your family at Jewish festivals like
holidays
like Eli just said?
Yeah. And I think that holidays in the Charedi lifestyle, they ruin that concept at all. With all the rules and the halacha and all this things, and they take all the concept of the fun. I think that they ruin the concept at all, because the holidays family strict.
You're from a Chabad family, and the spiritual leader of Chabad was Menachem Mendel Schneerson. He was a man who was not brought up in a way that many of the other Charedi rabbis are brought up, with a myopic view. He had both feet in the world. He was an engineer. He was in the university in Paris.
Okay, let me stop you. I'm really familiar with that one. I think as long that you believe in the same religion that believe all the other Haredim, so what can you do to change the primitive and the archive? The concept of religion have to be primitive, and it have to be something that not combine with our modern lifestyle, because that's something that wrote 3,000 years ago, and it's not can be combined with our lifestyle. So there is the most of Haredim that say, okay, we don't want to be progress, and we don't need to make the combine between our lifestyle and modern life. And they have the right to do this, because you can choose the primitive way. It's okay. But I'm really disagree with Chabad that say, oh, our rabbi is progressive and liberal and feminist. It's not could be. You can be a reformer, okay, or conservative, and to change the rules of the Torah so they can combine with your modern lifestyle. But as long that you believe in the original religion and the original Torah, you cannot a liberal or progressive or something like this. It's populist and the demagogy things to do. I really feel that Chabad lifestyle is trying again and again to represent himself to we are the progressive people and we are the liberal people, and we doing all in the modernity way. It cannot be right. It's not make any sense, because you still believe in same religion that call to gays to be murdered by the religion, and all the people do not want to save Shabbos. So there is a primitive way, and you can live it, because it's okay to be a primitive, but not talking to me about we are liberal and progressive, because it cannot be combined. It's not make any sense.
I got your point. Eli?
I disagree completely. First of all, I think that in that case, North Korea, a tyrannical society who has believed since 1948, has believed in being an nationalistic country. They get the power. Their tyranny comes from the fact that they have isolated themselves from the whole world. And that's what the Charedi people are doing. The fact that the Charedi people are doing it doesn't make it the right choice. In the olden days, Judaism used to be so inclusive. If you look at the Second Temple, you will see that the most of the Jewish people weren't even in Jerusalem. They weren't studying the whole day to become rabbis.
We're coming off the subject. You disagreed with the fact that it's possible to be Charedi and
progressive
and understand the modern world.
All Judaism was like that. So I think that Ricky was trying to say is that the Charedi community, and especially the Chabad, sometimes they picture themselves as being open to this modern world, but they are not. They are far from it. So in that aspect, I agree. I think that it doesn't have to be so. So I think the Zionistic religious people have shown us that you can mix the modern world and religion and still not be in isolation, like the Charedi community. Not only that, I think in the olden days, it was very much accepted to be part of the modern world in business as much as in philosophy. Hellenistic Judaism was a big thing during the Second Temple, and even though it doesn't exist now, a high percentage of Jewish people were Hellenistic Jewish. It's possible to mix the two and still be Jewish. There is no need to be in isolation. And I think that, like Ricky said, even though they picture the Rebbe as being very progressive, I think at the end of the day, the Chabad, as much as the rest of the Charedi sectors, they are far from being progressive.
Ricky, you can have one very brief last word on the subject.
I think you need to define yourself. You cannot be progressive in the same time. It's not going together, and it's a...
Yeah, you've said that. Thank you very much. Ricky, how would you consider your education level when you left in terms of school grade?
I'm learning math and English and some grammar and something like this, but when you learn in a very religious school, the teacher make the focus on a spiritual thing. They told you all the time, the education that you to take from the school is not meant. You're here to prepare to your future as a Jewish woman and to be a good wife to your husband and to make a home of Torah and to make a lot of kids that are going to be religious, and they not make a focus about
So the secular education was not of great importance. It was secondary.
Even not second. All the things I remember from my school, it's to educate you about your duty to be a good wife and be a good Jewish girl and to make you believe in more strong, and that's all the important things.
Eli, you left school at 14, so your education level can't have been very high at that time. I know that you have since then self-educated and studied in university. That's quite commendable for someone who left like you at 14. But what did you know at that time?
In difference to Ricky, in England, Charedi people, and I think also in America, they do study and they do the baccalaureate, they do in England it's the GCSEs and A-levels, even though some of the things are being censored the whole time by the school, by the community. So in that aspect, whilst the schools do teach everything, I myself didn't. I didn't study because I left home when I was 14.
Ricky, did you expect life to be as you experienced it now and see it?
I didn't have a lot of expectation because I really didn't know what I'm going to become. But I'm not even dreaming about what I become. After I left the Charedi lifestyle, I recruited to the army. And in the army, I met in the first time in my life some Israeli girls and boys with no connect to religion and the Charedi lifestyle, and it was a shock to me.
So what drew you to the outside world, Ricky? Was it the food? Was it the music? Was it premarital sex? Why did you really leave, other than the religious belief?
I don't think any of the things you say it was part of my choice to live the Charedi lifestyle. I believe that my living this way, it because I'm not believe in the ideology and this culture and this concept of God and religion and the duty to do something that someone years ago say. And I really want to create my life. It was a spiritual process, it's not something material. I want to dance in a bar and to eat a ham sandwich, and I stopped to believe in all this culture and this religion way, and I just live it.
You both consider yourselves free, and you both spoke about the unparalleled support that exists in the ultra-Orthodox communities. Do you feel that void?
Of course. There is the community can provide to you. When you are part of community, you get a lot of support. You're never alone.
And you miss it?
I'm not miss it because I think it's coming from a motive.
What about you, Eli? You spoke very glowingly about the support that the ultra-Orthodox communities give you. Did you feel that loss? And did you miss it?
For many years, I thought I lost it. But in recent years, I have found it in a secular world. I think that it does take time to build it rather than hand it to you in the Charedi world. So I miss it a lot, but I have found it, and my family as well, they're all supporting me now. So in that aspect, I think that today I'm fine with it, I guess.
Did you ever consider that private or group therapy would help you in any way to overcome all those various problems that leaving the Charedi community causes?
There was a lot of issues that were brought up as a result of me leaving, both personally and family, and I have thought therapy, and I'm actually proud of it. I think in the 21st century people should be much more open about going to therapy, and I've come a long way. But for sure it was very difficult breakup at the beginning, and I needed to understand it and to get to process it, which I have done in therapy.
Thank you. Did you ever consider that you would benefit from therapy, either group therapy or private?
Of course, I think in our times everyone got the reason to go to therapy, so we as children that live the way and the home sometimes and the family and make some very complicated process, I think we need therapy. We need to find a way to process.
Did you ever have therapy?
Yeah, in the army I went to a psychological military. You get the right to see a therapist if you want. I took advantage of this opportunity, and this was a first therapy in my life, and it was a great idea to do it, I think.
Eli, would you marry a non-Jew?
Under the right circumstance, yes. I would not actively pursue it, but if it was love, it was a love, I guess.
It wouldn't bother you then that your children would not be Jewish?
I think that I would marry. I mean, I'd rather go out with someone Jewish, but if I met someone and I happened to fall in love, then I wouldn't object to it. I wouldn't change religion, that I wouldn't. I would find someone who is not that religious. You know, I wouldn't take Christianity on. I wouldn't like my kids to be brought up as Christians.
And your non-Jewish wife would want to bring the children up her way, in her religion?
I would accept traditional customs in both religions, but I don't want a family that has a lot of religious lifestyle within them.
So there'll be a Christmas tree and a Hanukkah?
Oh yes, Christmas would be celebrated for us.
Ricky, would you marry a non-Jew?
I don't see a problem with it, but I think when you get married with someone, we need to understand each other. If I get married with a non-Jew, I doubt if he can understand me all the way. So I think it's might be causing any problems with our communicate. But as a principle, I don't see a problem, because in any case, I'm not going in a tradition, religions, not believe in a marriage with the same-sex wedding.
How then would you bring up your children if you're married to a non-Jew?
I think it's important to me to give them the knowledge about base principle Jewish, because their mom is Jewish and it's part of their identity. They get the base knowledge about Judaism and about my family.
Okay, so what is Judaism to you? Because you do not believe in God and you want to bring your children up Jewish. That is a contradiction, because Judaism is believing God.
But I think there is a way to know they have a part of Judaism in their identity without to believe in God or to think they have duty to believe in God. I think religion can be a culture and can be some traditional stuff that you can keep with you, but you don't need to believe in God to be connected with Judaism.
I would like to emphasize that and say Judaism is from the word Judea. It has nothing to do with believing in God. It's to do with the fact that we all came from some place called Judea 2,000 years ago. That is what makes us unique, not the fact that we believe or don't believe in God, which is a personal choice.
I know Ricky's description of religion. What's yours, Eli?
I think religion, in a word, is a sense of belonging to some purpose, some cause. It doesn't really make a difference which religion you are in, and I think that is an intrinsic need for each one of us to have. We all want to have a sense of purpose. So for me, religion gives that. Now, what is true and what is not is very hard to discern. There's so many scholars, so many diverse opinions. My opinion is that maybe there is some kind of a God in the world. but I'm not sure to which end who is right.
So do you agree with Ricky that to belong to a particular group, either politically or sexually or in any other way, is belonging to a religion?
No. I think that it gives you a sense of purpose. That doesn't mean that this is religion. I think maybe to anything you take to an extreme is maybe fanatical, but it's not.
I'm not saying to belong to something is become to your religion. I'm saying that you can make it to your religion if you take it extremely.
But obviously the definition of religion is a belief in some whatever that made or created this world. That's the basic. I'm reminded of Soviet Russia, and they always used to say that religion is opium for the masses, and they did the exact opposite. So in that sense, Ricky is right that being anti-religion, like Soviet Russia, is actually religion. Socialism, it's kind of a religion. They took away religion, but instated their own religion.
I have several sentences, and I'd like you to finish them. Eli, if any Charedi young people would ask my advice, I would tell them
to look into their heart and feel what's right, not necessarily what other people think it's right for them.
Ricky, how would you finish the sentence? If any Charedi young people would ask my advice, I would tell them
to take the time, okay? Not to impulsive decision. To decide from the brain and not from the heart, because you can regret about it.
If I had to do it all over again from scratch, I would
take the time and I make some decisions in less extremely ways and not pushing all what coming in my way.
Does that mean you, in a sense, regret you've gone so far now?
I have a lot of regret about the way I choose to make some decisions, but I'm not sure if I can make it another way. Some of my decisions was unnecessary ways to do that, but I think if I gone back in the time, at least some things I can do another way.
Well, of course, it's not too late now to make adjustments.
I think that there is a thing it's too late and there is a thing it's not too late, but regrets, it's a thing that you can change for a reason.
If I had to do it all over again from scratch, I would.
Overall, do it exactly the same, I think. I do have maybe a little bit of a regret of communicating better and to be more understanding towards the other people around me. But overall, I would say I would do it exactly the same. I'm very happy with who I am today and the journey I've taken to be who I am.
So the main thing I've learned from my journey so far is
compassion. Compassion to other people. I've been through a lot of pain, makes me understand people. Not to be judgy, to include other people, and not to be outrageous, unforgiving, but rather being forgiving.
The main thing I've learned from my journey so far is
to search all the time and to know that it's always I need to learn and to be humble with always to find out more things about me, about others, about the world.
The one thing I would tell my parents is
I tell them that I'm fine, so they don't need to be worried about me, even I'm not what they know.
I would tell them how much I appreciate, especially my mother, how much I appreciate her and how much I love her. I've seen them change so much, so being so considerate, especially to me, of who I want to be. And for that I'm very grateful and would tell them that.
For me, being Jewish means
being part of a tribe.
For me, being Jewish means
to be a part of very traditional culture, to be a part of something who exists 3,000 years ago, and I'm proud to be a part of this community or this religion or this culture. To be apart from something is bigger than me.
So that's the religion that you don't believe in?
No. To be a part of something that's bigger than you, it's to be a part of culture and traditional and something who exists a long time before you came to this world, but believe in something that bigger than you, and to think he created you and he is supposed to tell you what to do in all single day and on the second time, it's something different at all.
My almost last question is, the next big challenge in my life is?
To settle down. Not in a way of marriage or something like this, maybe also, but when I say settle down, to calm down and to get to the point that I have all I want, and I have all the things I need to be the person I want to be.
Eli, my next big challenge is?
To be in a relationship, I guess, and I really want to settle down, have kids. I guess do the things that I love in my life and to love in return.
Finally, both of you, any regrets at all?
I'm reminded of the song from Frank Sinatra, My Way. I really have done it my way. In general, no, I don't have any regret.
Finally, no. I have not any regrets about the person I become. But if you're asking about the way and the things I did, I'm really happy.
Well, Ricky and Eli, I thank you very much for having been so frank and answered some of those difficult questions. And I hope that my listeners will have got a good insight into the reasons why some young people leave the ultra-Orthodox lifestyle. You will have noticed that I did not enter into much debate because the purpose of this program was to find the reasons for this increasing movement of young people from the Charedi, from the ultra-Orthodox into the secular world. And with that, I end for today. I hope to be back again next week with more news, views, and interviews from Israel and the rest of the Jewish world. Until then, this is Walter Bingham wishing you a good week, clear of the virus, and COVID restrictions permitting where you live. Please visit your elderly neighbor because at this time they are particularly vulnerable. Goodbye.
Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. Just click the orange button at the top of the IsraelNewsTalkRadio.home page, log in as yourself or an anonymous guest, and join in on the fun. You'll meet other listeners from all over the world who listen to Israel News Talk Radio, and you can make new friends. Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. It's the closest you can get to being in the studio with us.
We love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.